Welcome. I want to take a moment to thank you all for carving out some time of your schedule this morning or this evening if you are in other parts of the world to join us for what is our final presentation in the 2025 Disaster Planning, Preparedness, and Response webinar series from GRNEN. Before we get started, I just want to share with you that we are going to have plenty of time for Q&A at the end of our webinar. If you have any questions during the course of the session, please feel free to drop that in through the chat panel or the Q&A feature in your Zoom. Just keep in mind that we are going to hold all questions till the end. Once this webinar has concluded, should you wish to ask a live question, you may also feel free to raise your hand and we will unmute your microphone for you. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Aris Kendall Bangabang, who is the nursing dean at St. Anthony's College in the Philippines. Aris is a passionate leader in nursing education and holds key leadership roles in several nursing organizations. He has represented the Philippines at multiple international conferences, and his areas of interest include disaster preparedness, emergency response, and advanced nursing education. So with that, I would like to turn this over to Aris so he can present his topic today on Nurses on the Front Lines, Lessons in Disaster Preparedness and Response in the Philippines. Aris?
Thank you very much, Stacy. Is my audio clear to everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our colleagues joining from around the world. My name is Aris Kendall Bungabong, and presently I'm the Dean of the Nursing Department of St. Anthony's College here in the Philippines. As part of the webinar series of the Global Rural Nursing Exchange Network on disaster preparedness and response, just like what Stacy mentioned, I will be talking to you about how we prepare and respond to disaster, specifically here in the Philippines. So this webinar is entitled Nurses on the Front Lines, Lessons from Disaster Preparedness and Response in the Philippines. Over the next few minutes, we will journey into the heart of crisis response, exploring the incredible resilience and expertise forged in one of the world's most disaster-prone nations, the Philippines. This is a story of challenge, but more importantly, it's a story of strength, innovation, and the universal lessons that can empower us all. To understand disaster nursing in the Philippines, we must first understand a core cultural value, bayanihan. Bayanihan is the spirit of communal unity. It's the sight of neighbors coming together after a typhoon to rebuild a shattered home, sharing what little they have without a second thought. It transforms the professional duty of a nurse into an act of profound collective solidarity. When systems are down and formal aid has yet to arrive, bayanihan is the first responder. This concept or this value was very evident during the onslaught of Typhoon Yolanda, or internationally was known as Haiyan, in 2013, wherein many places or many provinces here in the Philippines were greatly affected. Immediately after the disaster or after the typhoon, many places have no immediate response from the national government. So it was the local community, it was the neighborhood who prepared or who supported those who were greatly affected. Here in the province of Antique, we also provided relief and at the same time assistance to many of the mostly affected communities. So for several days now, immediately after the disaster, we went to those sites providing relief, food, medical assistance, and these were just provided by those people who have additional funds or money and those NGO. It was a few days wherein the government were able to already provide assistance. And we also assisted when we have foreign medical professionals who conducted medical missions. When COVID-19 struck the country in 2010, this was also evident due to the lack of personal protective equipment and even alcohol. So we have communities, we have institutions, schools who develop alcohol so that this can be distributed to the different hospitals who will be needing it. At the same time, we also have a lot of institutions or hospitals who experience lockdown. So communities, those with available resources that they provided, they gave assistance through food so that at least this can provide immediate assistance, no, given that they do not have the capacity due to the disaster that struck. So bayanihan, it is, as we describe it, an uncodified yet essential competency in disaster nursing. It's this intrinsic drive to help one another that forms the very foundation of our community's resilience. And the spirit is forged in a relentless crucible. The Philippines is, in effect, a natural laboratory for disaster nursing. Our geography places us at the intersection of immense natural forces. We face, on average, over 20 typhoons annually. As of these times, September 5th, we already have 11 typhoons now have entered the country. Just in August, we have 5 typhoons. And here in St. Anthony's College, we have several cancellations already. Just the beginning of the semesters, we already have several cancellations due to the typhoons. We are home to 22 active volcanoes. All over the Philippines, there are volcanoes, and all year round, no, there are threats for eruptions. An estimated 74% of our population is exposed to these hazards, placing us consistently at the top tier of the World Risk Index. This has created what we call a new normal. For a Filipino nurse, crisis is not a rare event. It's a recurring part of life and work. This constant exposure builds an unparalleled skills and an incredible ability to adapt. However, it also carries a heavy burden, the profound risk of systemic burnout. Our nurses are strong, but the cycle is unending. In response to this reality, the Philippines enacted a landmark law in 2010, Republic Act 10121, or the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act. This was a critical paradigm shift. We moved from a reactive, top-down approach focused only on relief after disaster to a modern proactive framework that is community-based, focused on risk reduction, and involves all sectors of society. However, it's great to note that a great policy on paper can face challenges in practice. A critical gap often exists between what the law's intent and its implementation. The system in reality relies heavily on the individual's resilience of its nurses rather than robust institutional support. Our nurses become the primary shock absorbers of systemic failures, bridging gaps in logistics, communication, and resources with their own sheer will. And this brings us to part 2, where we will follow the nurse's journey through the 3 phases of the disaster cycle, examining their evolving roles and the competencies they demonstrate at every stage. The role of the nurse in disaster management begins long before the impact. When the law was implemented, we standardized disaster risk reduction and management all over the country. So there were already disaster offices, disaster response reduction and response offices that were created in different municipalities and even in barangay level. So we start with the phase 1, which is preparedness. So this is an active, multi-domain effort to forge resilience. At the community level, nurses are indispensable in building community capacity. This isn't an abstract idea. It involves concrete actions. So nurses, they lead workshops in schools and community centers, teaching families how to create go bags and perform basic first aid. So here in the Philippines, we have agencies through the Department of Health and cascaded down to the provincial health level, the municipal health offices, wherein we have nurses who are assigned to disaster preparedness. So they would go to the level of the community to prepare the community to the barangay level in terms of how do we prepare, teaching them the basic first aid and some of the common ways on how to deal in cases of emergencies. So nurses are key figures in organizing community-wide disaster drills and practicing evacuation routes from flood-prone areas. At the institutional level, within healthcare facilities, nurses are central to preparedness. They are key players in developing and testing hospital disaster plans, creating detailed protocols for a sudden surge of patients, and ensuring the strategic stockpiling of medications and supplies. Given that in times of disasters, our supplies are limited, and usually they are depleted due to the number of patients that are being brought to the different hospitals. And on a personal and professional level, which is a crucial and often overlooked aspect, the nurse's own readiness. To be effective, nurses must have their own family preparedness plans in place. Professionally, this demands continuous education to close the gap between vast practical experience and formal disaster knowledge, which is an ethical imperative to navigate the moral dilemmas of a crisis. We also remember that as nurses, we also have our own family, and they are not exempted from experiencing this disaster. But the call for our profession to serve those who are in need, the many who are affected by disaster, would always comes first. But then again, we have also to prepare ourselves. When the disaster strikes, nurses are thrust into the chaos. And this will now lead to the second phase, which is the response phase. So nurses become the critical link between system failure and patient survival. Their key actions include rapid triage and clinical care. And usually these are being done in makeshift settings with limited supplies. So our government, they do not have, or our healthcare facilities do not have the advanced equipment and even facilities to accommodate this number of patients in disaster. So there is really problems in times of surge, and nurses they would do triaging and even provide care in these limited settings. Another important actions being done in the response stage is providing psychological first aid. That is, addressing the invisible wounds of trauma for patients and their families. This was very evident during the COVID-19, when many of those affected experience mental health issues. In times of disasters, there are a lot of cases of post-traumatic stress disorders, and providing psychological first aid is very important to ensure that these psychological problems will not lead to more problems or complications, and that patients who would need referral can be assisted so that they can be supported. And maintaining infection control and public health to prevent a secondary crisis of disease outbreaks. In these moments, the phrase, "the nurse as the shock absorber of a failing system," becomes a stark reality. They innovate, they lead, and they save lives by filling the gaps. The cameras may leave, but the nurse's work continues deep into the recovery phase, which is the third phase. This is about building back better. Their role is crucial in leading long-term community health restoration. This includes ensuring continuity of care for those with chronic diseases whose treatment were interrupted. Another important activities of nurses during this phase is leading immunization campaigns, since there is a probability of spreading of communicable diseases. That could lead to outbreak, especially if we have patients or victims that were not immunized. Championing mental health support by integrating trauma care into the primary healthcare system. This became a landmark success after Typhoon Haiyan or Yolanda. We have several organizations and even international volunteers who came here to not only to provide physical assistance through medical missions, but at the same time to provide psychosocial support to our victims. And participating in system strengthening, using their frontline experience to advocate for more resilient health infrastructure for the future. So, to summarize, the nurse's role is dynamic across the entire disaster cycle. In preparedness, they are the educator and planner. In response, they are the crisis leader and trauma provider. And in recovery, they are the community rebuilder and mental health integrator. Each phase requires a distinct skill set, and Filipino nurses master them all through relentless real-world experience. And this brings us to the third part of my topic, which is the lessons from the front lines. Here, we transform the specific experiences of Filipino nurses into a universal call to action, because what we learn in the Philippines can and should strengthen healthcare systems globally. The experiences of Filipino nurses offer profound and universally applicable lessons for our profession and for the healthcare system everywhere. First, there is an undeniable preparedness performance link. While nurses demonstrate incredible resilience under pressure, research consistently identifies a global gap in formal disaster preparedness, knowledge, and skills. The evidence is clear. Systematic preparation leads to a more effective performance, enhanced safety, and reduced stress for responders. Second, we must acknowledge the unseen toll on the healer. Nurses are often the second victims of a disaster, absorbing community trauma while grappling with their own losses. The psychological toll is immense, yet support systems for responders are often inadequate. Providing institutional mental health support is not a luxury. It is a fundamental necessity for maintaining a healthy, sustainable, and effective global nursing workforce. And third, we must recognize the nurse as the inevitable leader. In the chaos of disaster, formal hierarchies often collapse. Nurses are invariably thrust into leadership roles, making critical decisions about care, resources, and logistics. These competencies, rapid decision-making, clear communication, and creative problem-solving, are too important to be left to chance. They must be formally taught and cultivated as a core component of disaster nursing worldwide. These lessons lead us to a global call to action with key responsibilities for three critical groups. To educators or clinical instructors, we must integrate comprehensive disaster risk reduction and management curricula into our nursing programs. We need to produce graduates who are disaster ready from day one. So for those nursing students who are graduate of nursing school, they must be competent. They must be ready. In cases of disaster, they can already perform the needed competencies. To administrators and policymakers, you must turn policy into practice. Invest in regular drills, fix the logistical gaps, and most critically, create and fund robust mental health programs for your staff. And to every nurse everywhere, embrace your role as a leader, seek continuous learning in disaster management, mentor the next generation, advocate fiercely for your patients, your communities, and your own well-being. So for the nursing students, learning about disaster preparedness, enhancing our skills doesn't end when you graduate, but you should be lifelong learners. You need to continue training, be updated, so that when you are needed, you are always ready. We began with the Filipino spirit of bayanihan. Let us conclude by seeing it as a global professional commitment, a promise to stand with and for our communities in their darkest hours. The nurse is a pillar of the health system and a beacon of hope in any crisis. Their strength, compassion, and resilience are among our world's greatest assets. When we choose to invest in them, to support them, and to empower them, we are making the single most important investment in our collective ability to withstand any storm and to build back stronger together. Thank you very much for your attention and for listening.
Thank you, Aris. That was quite inspirational and educational. I'd like to open the floor up for any questions that you may have about the presentation that you might like to ask of Aris himself. Comments, you may feel free to drop that either in the chat or in the Q&A feature, whichever is easier. You may also select to raise your hand and we can unmute you so you can ask a live question as well. While we're thinking about what those questions might be, I just want to share with everybody that this session has been recorded today. It will be posted to the website grnen.org within the next couple of days. So if you would like to share this information with other people that you work with, other colleagues, peers, students, it's a great way to do that. It will be available on demand for future learning. Any questions? I always like to share with everyone too, as you depart from our webinars, if any questions do come up after the fact, if you have any need for additional resources or information from any of our presenters, you can email us directly at grnen.org. I'm going to drop that in the chat, info@grnen.org. And we will make sure to direct your question or comment right to Aris so you can connect with him if there's anything that you would like to get more information on or to share after the fact. So with that, we'll go ahead and close our session today. Aris, it is always an absolute pleasure to have you present to our community. Your information and your knowledge is so vast, and we're always so grateful when you take the time to do something like this. Thank you to you. Thank you to all of the people who have chosen to be a part of this incredible session today. We're grateful for your time. Um, I guess
Thank you very much, Stacy, and to all our participants. Thank you for listening.
have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.